Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Azabi here, back again with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. We are on episode 2, and in the premiere episode, episode 1, we obviously got introduced to our main cast of characters, the two most important, Edward and Alphonse Elric. And it seems as though their goal and priority is mainly getting their bodies back, after Edward, I believe, was trying to do human transmutation, and because of that, Alphonse completely sort of just disintegrated, enveloped by nothingness, and Edward ended up binding his soul to a suit of armor. Now, you know, what is interesting is that from the opening of the show, the one thing that I took away from that was what I assume is Alphonse like getting enveloped by nothingness, and that's what happened. You know what I mean? But what is interesting is I don't know if that is something that occurred. Like, I feel like because Edward was shouting things like he's gone, bring him back, that he'd already essentially been, you know, he'd already had gone by that point. So it's interesting, like, to note how he could have bound a soul of someone who isn't there to armor. You know what I mean? So hopefully at some point there is a full sort of scene of where that occurred in the show. I would like that to be the case. I'm pretty sure it will crop up at some point. You know, just so I can get like an idea of exactly how everything happened the way that it did. Of course, in this episode, you know, you've got to fill in those sort of blanks. You know, and you know, you can't obviously go over a certain time limit. You know what I mean? So it fitted in. It's just a little bit of a tease, a little bit of a taster for what's you know, for what's to come. We get the full story later on. That's generally how, you know, anime stories work anyway. So I'm guessing that is how it's going to be. So we have the sort of the military sort of like organization that Edward and Alphonse are kind of already a part of. You know what I mean? So there's obviously a lot of sort of bits, I guess, missing. It seems as though this episode kind of it started out the show very in the midst of something already happening. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of backstory that we kind of need to get in order to see how we got from, you know, essentially Edward and Alphonse losing their bodies to where they are now. I feel like at least from that moment, that's when it makes sense going forward. You know what I mean? Like, at least if we get everything from then to now, I feel like we'll be caught up in the most perfect way, kind of thing. So I'm guessing the idea is that, you know, in true anime style, is that you get those story elements come through flashbacks every so often. You know what I mean? And getting information when we need them that serves the story purposes. So we'll see what obviously happens with that. Of course, we had a guy who was part of the military, Isaac McDougall, who ended up being a traitor for whatever reason. My theories and everything like that involving that are in the post discussion for episode 1. So if you haven't seen that already, you can go back and watch and, you know, listen to my thoughts on that. And yeah, he died at the end to Führer Bradley's hands, which is you know, interesting. We talked about how he's a Führer and how that translates to a tyrannical leader, which kind of goes hand in hand with Isaac's sort of theory about the whole you know, that corruption thing going on, or how it's not so good. We'll see going forward. And other than that, yeah, we got introduced to like these sort of cast of characters that were sort of, you know, they've been set up to be the bad guys, if you want to call it that. We've got, the only name that I got was Gluttony, and there was the woman next to him. Now, it's possible that the Crimson Alchemist Kimberly is part of that. Who knows, though? You know, we'll see. He has some connection to this little fucking red sphere thing that fell out of Isaac when he died, and Kimberly was able to pick up on that. So whether it's a case of like somewhat controlling him via this little sphere, if that's part of his like sort of alchemy background, I don't know. You know, but we'll get all of these answers at some point, I imagine. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to go into anything else. I think we're just going to get in episode 2. As always, the reaction should be here on YouTube and not a separate link. However, if it does get taken down for copyright, I will just put the reaction portion, I'll re-upload the video, put the reaction portion on my website, and the link to that will be in the description below. So, you know, if that is the case, then the link will be there. If not, it'll be in the YouTube video. There's also the link down to the full length if you want to watch my, like this episode in full and not just the 10-minute cut version, then the offer is there for you. But yeah, nothing else really to talk about, so we're going to get in episode 2 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go.
Alchemy, The science of understanding, deconstructing, and reconstructing matter. It is impossible to create something out of nothing. If one wishes to obtain something,
transmute it.
Something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange.
Yeah.
In accordance with this law, there is a taboo among alchemists. Human transmutation is strictly forbidden. For what could equal the value of a human soul?
What could equal the value?
Brother, the stories about this priest in Lior, you think they're true?
The ones about his miracles? They say he can transmute flowers out of thin air, right?
The Grand Elixir, sealed away by the Eastern Sage. It goes by different names, but it's always the same thing. Some kind of object that amplifies alchemy.
It's Philosopher's
That's
Stone.
the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah. Hey, it doesn't have a leg.
Damn books! They tell us everything but how
As
to
well.
find it!
I think I have a good feeling about this one.
I don't, because it's episode 2.
Oh, you boys.
Resemble.
Are you in here messing up your dad's study again?
Here, watch.
Oh my. That's alchemy, isn't it? Did your dad teach you that?
How can he teach us anything if he's not here?
Right, we read about it in these books.
So he just learned from
Believe
books.
you've done this. It's great. You definitely take after your father. Geniuses. You make me so proud.
From that moment, we were obsessed with learning alchemy.
They didn't have a master
Summer
then,
of
or...
that same year, an epidemic swept the country, and it took her.
Oh, god damn it, man. Always parents dying.
Once Dad comes back, everything will
Don't even talk about him! That bastard doesn't care about us. Didn't even come for Mom's funeral.
Trisha.
You know, there might be a way we could bring Mom back.
But
This
I
is
thought
how
said
it- this
in
is
all
how it
the books that
happens.
Using alchemy to make people is something you're not supposed to do ever.
That's right. That's why it'll be our secret.
It just said automail on there.
Come on, Ed, drink your milk. If you don't drink it, you'll stay short forever.
You mean like you sawed-off old hag?
What was that? You little half-pint midget.
Shut down,
Like broke Pee-wee.
baby Aunt Baby!
Subatomic shrimp.
Bloody hell.
I forgot! Grandma wanted me to tell you she's making stew tonight! Yay, stew!
Right, we'll be there. You know, whoever invented stew must have been a genius. It's even got milk in it and it still tastes good. Just one leap, that's all it takes. And it's what we need to figure out human transmutation.
And so we began searching for the key that would unlock the secrets of human transmutation and bring Mom back to life. We trained with an alchemy teacher to prepare our bodies as well as our minds. We wanted to go back to our lives with her the way they used to be. That's what drove us, day and night.
And we're ready.
I'm guessing the
Water,
small...
35 liters. Carbon, 20 kilograms. Ammonia, 4 liters. Lime, 1.5 kilograms. Phosphorus, 800 grams. Salt, 250 grams. Saltpeter, 100 grams. Sulfur, 80 grams. Fluorine, 7.5 grams. Iron, 5 grams. Silicon, 3 grams.
Seeing as souls are
Finally,
a clear thing in this
some
world,
soul data.
where... That's the thing, is where does the souls go in this world after the person's died, you know? Because if that's the thing, an equivalent exchange may be the reason why the brother was able to be soul-bound into a piece of armor. You can see them in the back.
Something doesn't feel right.
Oh, Christ. It's trying... Christ.
I am the world. I am the universe. I'm God. I am truth. I am all.
Whoever that is, like the laws of the
You have
universe.
dared to knock on the door. Now, the door is open. I will show you the truth.
Because the idea of trying to bring back a life would cause another life, right?
Information in the world was being poured into my brain at once.
Oh, God, dude.
For an instant, it all became clear. The truth of everything.
The theory of human transmutation wasn't wrong. It can be done. It's possible. It's still just missing something.
I've already shown you all I can for the toll you've paid.
Toll? What toll?
This, surely you knew.
Giving the leg and arm to her.
It's the law of equivalent exchange, right, young alchemist?
This wasn't supposed to. No! He's gone! What have I done?
Fucking hell. Oh, God, dude. Oh, he's brung back his mother for that.
This isn't what we wanted! Alphonse! This is all my fault! Alphonse, no!
Sucks.
No, damn it! You won't take him too! Give him back! He's my brother! Take my heart, anything you can have it! Just give it back! He's my little brother! He's all I have left!
If you're leaving, I'll go ahead and give this to you.
What is it?
Something you might find interesting. The final report on Isaac McDougal.
Time.
Chinese alchemy. What's that?
Apparently, that's something they have. So, how are the Elrics doing? You keeping those boys out of trouble?
I'm their commanding officer, not their father.
Why'd you decide to make Ed a state alchemist anyway? He's just a kid. That boy's gonna have to go through hell someday. You and I have certainly seen our share.
Oh, they've seen hell. Both of them. And plenty of it.
Lieutenant Colonel, they're not in back either.
Hey, what is this? You have no reason to come barging in here.
We went to your house, we saw the floor. What was that? What did you do?
We're sorry. We didn't mean it. We're sorry. We're sorry.
Boy, are you?
Poor kid.
This is a surprise, to say the least. The last thing I expected to find was a boy skilled enough to attempt human transmutation, or advanced enough to bond a soul to a suit of armor. I'd say he's more than qualified to become a state alchemist. He'll be required to serve the military in times of national emergency. In return, he'll receive privileges and access to otherwise restricted research materials. Given time, they may be able to find a way to get their bodies back.
What was there? Whatever that thing was, it wasn't human. Alchemy created that abomination. It nearly killed them.
I think it was supposed to be a physical representation of, like, the mother.
Lieutenant? Just Riza, please.
I hate what you soldiers do. Soldiers like you are the reason my mom and dad left during the war, and soldiers are the reason they're dead. Now you're here to take Ed and Al away, too.
If they go, that decision will be theirs, whether to move forward or stay still.
Will you sit in that chair wallowing in self-pity, or will you stand up and seize the chance the military can give you?
It's their choice.
Why did you become a soldier?
Because there's someone I have to protect.
We're leaving.
Yes, sir. Well, I guess this is goodbye, young lady.
It's Winry.
Right. Bye, Winry. I hope we meet again someday. That boy. I've never seen anyone look so defeated.
That's what you saw? No. There was fire in those eyes.
Motherfucker ain't giving up. Cool.
You sure you won't regret this?
I'm glad we got that, like,
My
right
mind's
away.
made up. How long will the surgery and rehabilitation take?
I'd say about 3 years.
I'll do it in 1. Now I just need to try some alchemy. I'd say that's right on the money.
Cool.
Amazing! You didn't even use a transmutation circle. You perform alchemy the same way the teacher does.
You can do it too.
Who's the teacher?
So you didn't see it, did you?
Hey, you! Don't mess up my auto mail. You know how hard I worked on that.
Hell, if it's half as hard as to throw a wrench, I'd be surprised.
So she was the one that made that then?
More like a girl and less like a gearhead.
Yeah.
As long as you're wearing my auto mail, you're stuck with this gearhead whether you like it or not.
I hear we have a 12-year-old boy taking the test. Thought I would come out and see what all the excitement was about. Would that be a steel prosthetic?
Happened during the Eastern conflict.
I see.
Bureau King Bradley.
You may proceed with the examination.
So who knows about the human transmutation thing that he did then? Does only Mustang know about that?
You know, there are some people who would see this as a good way to assassinate a VIP.
That's good.
Or a way to make a
Clearly
statement.
have nerves of steel, young man.
Oh my god, he already fucking snapped.
You put on quite a show, my naive young alchemist. This silver pocket watch will serve as proof of your state certification. This envelope contains your certificate of appointment, and it would seem our Fuhrer is not without a certain sense of irony.
Why is that?
Nothing. Congratulations. You've just officially become a dog of the military.
And that he is hereby granted the title of Full Metal.
Nice.
I like that. It's nice and intimidating.
It's great how it just ends up working out that people just think it's Alphonse because he's literally a full metal suit. Oh shit.
So that's Lior.
That's
Could it really be there?
that's the
key to
fucking
finally getting Al his body back.
that's the place where the fucking gluttony and that was. Shit in hell, dude. Okay, episode 2. Yeah, that's the same town, isn't it? I recognise the main building that looks like it's kind of like built up like a church. That's where Gluttony and whatever the other person is, the woman, that's where they were. Yeah. So it seems as though they are doing the whole sort of current, and then I don't know. Maybe they don't need to go back as much as I originally thought, because I thought it would be like coming back in stages and like flashbacks and stuff like that. But really, they've painted. Like, I mean, I'm glad that in episode 2 they basically just gave everything that had happened previously. You know, because I just want to get like a, you know, I want everything that had happened sort of out of the way before we get, like, you know, start, like, it's like getting all of the sort of backstory, most of it at least anyway, out the way before you go into like the main journey kind of with the character, you know what I mean? Because then you know what they've been through to get to the point that where they're at. You know, it gets you more sort of emotionally involved. You know, so yeah, really, really good episode where they just laid everything out on the table, which I really enjoyed. There's a few things that are interesting in this episode specifically to talk about. Like, so immediately, I like the little intro sequence where it's talking about equivalent exchange. I don't know if they're going to do this like every episode. You know, like where they pointed out. You know, like the law of equivalent exchange in alchemy is, you know, it's sort of absolute. You know, and they point out, like, you know, what is equal to a soul, because it's taboo to do human transmutation, and human transmutation is involved in the soul. But that's the thing. That's the thing that is so it's so interesting about it, is that question of what is equivalent to a soul, and how was Edward able to pull that off? I've got my theories, but also, like, you know, like in this world as well, is like what I want to know is what the I feel like I do this more often than I realize in other anime, where I actually talk about what lies beyond. I always bring up like a topic of somewhat like if the show has a somewhat, I guess, religious undertone or something like that along those. And I guess it's interesting that in a show that doesn't have, well, at least up until this point, hasn't got any religious undertone. Well, I guess except for like obviously the, you know, like the graveyard and stuff like that. Of course, that does like that whole thing of death and, you know, what happens after death. You had, I guess that was Winry that went to the graveyard and talked about it. You know, about how you shouldn't cry and everything because that'll make them sad in the next world and everything like that. How much of that is real versus just not? And you know what? I feel like they'll never explain it, because it doesn't need to be. And I think that's what keeps you sort of like, I think it give you just enough to where it gives you a little taste of what could be, but not an absolute truth. So the thing with the mother, I should have known they were going to try and bring her back. Like, you know, because at the end of the day, they're little kids, right? They haven't really experienced life yet. To even think that trying to pull this off, I mean, Edward is I guess we're going to be going into that debate sort of like arrogance, right? And I mean, that's the thing, is like generally a lot of the time in anime, a protagonist of a show does have that, like, you know, sense of arrogance. There are more so than others, like more arrogant than other protagonists, but I mean, he clearly had this arrogance about him as the reason why he even attempted to do it, and even just negate the fact that, you know, human transmutation is supposed to be fucking taboo. Like, it's something that's like not supposed to be done. But he was like, yeah, fuck it anyway. But like I said, like I won't hold that against him as his sort of like, you know, as his personality dictates, because at the end of the day they were still just kids and they didn't have their father around, which is another thing that can easily it can be a thing that's in the fucking background, where there can be cases for the father possibly showing up someday, and that being a big, obviously, storyline thing. You know, and it's not too far of the realm of possibility. It's interesting, isn't it, that like anime tends to do this thing where parents always die. They always do. And I know why it's done so much, because it's supposed to give this sense of purpose to a protagonist that, like, they, or like not even always a protagonist. Generally, mostly protagonists, but like even other characters, just general characters that like give them that sense of purpose of moving out on their own without the help or aid of others, which makes their sort of climb, like obviously harder. But that in turn is supposed to, show you the strength of character that they have to be able to push on through, regard like of the shit that they went through, like losing their parents at such a young age and stuff like that. And so it happens a lot in anime, and I know that's the reason why they do it. But obviously the interesting thing about this one was it wasn't just a case of we don't have a guard, well, they do kind of have a guardian with the grandmother, I suppose, that granny, and also they had this teacher, which is another thing that I need to talk about. But it wasn't just a case of they lost their mother and then they just went off into the wide world. It was a different way of going about it. The idea that maybe we can bring it back with human transmutation. And back to my point before about like what is equal to a human soul, because I was talking about like what is real and what isn't. Like, is there an afterlife where the mother is looking down on them? What defines the soul is what I'm asking, because the thing is that the exchange for trying to bring back their mother was taking from their body, right? So is it a thing of the body is tied to the soul and the soul is tied to the body? Is that the point? Is that the case? Because again, then I ask, from what I did in episode 1, where I was talking about how did Edward bind Alphonse's soul to the armor if the body was already gone? You know what I mean? Now, the thing is that there's still that sort of underlying thing of like when I was talking about like the religious undertones of what like they give like just enough of what was sort of out there controlling the whole thing. You've got this everything being, which is like, I am God, I am basically everything, right? That whatever that being was clearly has like I mean that's the thing that's having the effect on the universe and how I guess the world works in particular. So it, you know, whatever it is can see everything, it can hear everything, it basically is everything. So therefore, every single thing that's happening at once, like in terms of, at least if we're just talking just about alchemy and alchemists and people doing transmutation circles and everything like that, that being is taking and giving in that law of equivalent exchange. But that's the thing, is like, does that mean that when Alphonse was completely enveloped, like, and just vanished, that essentially his soul was given to that everything being, and then the leg and of Edward was gone, and then that thing arose from the circle, essentially died because it couldn't live, and then Edward went to the armor and gave something back for Alphonse. Now, we don't know what he gave, and I don't know what is possible he could give. The thing is that he didn't have that automail thing, right? So he had to basically use transmutation circles back then. He didn't have the automail, so he had to give something that I assume he was connected with, because in my head, literally just there when I was talking over it, I was wondering if he was able to give that black skeleton being back for Alphonse, just that Alphonse's soul is now, because the body doesn't exist, like Al's body doesn't exist anymore, so it's like tie the soul to the armor then, because that's the only thing that you know, I guess that made sense of it, like a human form at least around them. But he wasn't but Edward wasn't near that body, and he had to use a transmutation circle. So I feel like he couldn't reach. That's the other thing, is like, if a transmutation circle means that only the transmutation circle itself is what's like being used as a sort of like a bond, so everything that's outside of that circle doesn't work, right? So yeah, it couldn't have been, yeah, have back the black skeleton creature thing, which by the way I think was the mother. I think it was, at least it was trying to be, but I think because she was dead already, I don't think you can bring somebody back to life, is what I'm saying. I think once the person is dead, that is it. I don't think you can bring them back. The thing is, the thing that was different with Alphonse, because I think it's easy to say that Alphonse was just dead there. You know what I mean? Like, he literally didn't have a body anymore, so surely he's dead, right? That's the thing with the soul and the body being different. So I think when that equivalent exchange was given, and it literally took Al away, the soul was still intact, and that everything being had the soul. It's just a question of what Edward gave for that to happen. The other thing is that Edward went through this, he was shown the truth of everything, right? And information was just going in, right? Human minds aren't meant to know that much information. Like, when, you know what I mean? People will go insane knowing that much. So what I'm thinking happened is that he was getting information coming in, but because it was all coming in at one rate, he was getting information of stuff that he wanted to know. And when he was going through, he, like, you know, he found bits of, like, he got information of, you know, like human transmutation, how to actually pull it off. But because a lot of information was going in, I imagine a lot of information was going out and being forgotten at the same time. Because, you know, like, I just feel like there's no way you can know everything at once. It's just not that, you know what I mean? Like, our brains are amazing. I don't think we can know everything. You know, we would go insane. Our brain would short circuit. So my thought process, what happened there was too much information was going in that he wasn't able to retain it. He just remembers seeing something about it, and he might know like little bits, and maybe it could be a thing of because he has that memory of going in there, that maybe something might spark his memory again. He's like, oh yes, that's how you do it. And if that is the case, then he can human transmutate their bodies back. This is the thing, what I could... it would be interesting if he didn't even need a Philosopher's Stone at the end of the day. You know what I mean? If he was able to just pull it off just by straight up human transmutation. But again, it's like equivalent exchange. The one thing that doesn't abide by that rule almost is the Philosopher's Stone. It amplifies, right? So it's like you can get away with giving something little for something more, I'd imagine, is what the Philosopher's Stone's meant to be. So yeah, maybe they will need them for Philosopher's Stone anyway. But, you know, regardless, it's going to be whatever that information for humans transmutation, wherever he gets it from, whatever jogs his memory of what he saw at that point. That's what will allow them to get their bodies back if they ever do. I feel like that's what it is. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that black being, whatever it was a... You know, like it was I think it was just a physical manifestation of their mother. It had the long hair. It was reaching out, and it was bleeding, and it's just horrible. Like, the only thing I hope is that mother didn't have to feel like, you know, because it's that idea, isn't it, that you were literally just brought back to suffer again for however long it was. I feel like it died, like a normal physical being would. Like if a human being looked like that and was losing that much blood, they would die. And I feel like that's what it did, you know what I mean? So it's a weird thing. Like the granny said that she obviously went back to see what was there and found that thing, and it was like a demon spawn, whatever that was. It wasn't human. I think it's just a physical manifestation of what the mother could come back as almost. It's like the only way I can describe it is like trying to bring back somebody and making them into a zombie. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. It's like that zombie isn't the person it was. It you know, like even then, like the zombie kind of looks like the person. But I mean, the mother had been dead for so long at that point, man. Like she was at that point, her body would have just been a skeleton at that point, you know. So I just think it was that mixed with this black mass of you know, whatever it was trying to contain, what, you know, like organs and everything like that. I don't know, but it was supposed to be a physical manifestation of the mother, surely, which you know, it just makes it heartbreaking. You know what I mean? Fucking why are parents always dying? Ah. So yeah, name was Trisha. On the gravestone as well, it also put in a date, which was interesting. Though the idea is that I'm pretty sure it doesn't take place in the real world. It doesn't, right? So time period and whatnot doesn't really mean that much. But you know, it was 1904, and she died of some sort of epidemic. I think it said Rezembool is where they were. I'm guessing that's like the hometown, or village or whatever it was they were from. We've got the automail sign, which is interesting. So automail is just it's like gear that you can use. Like it's a fancy metal that can be used in tandem with alchemy. That's all it is. So that's cool to be able to get that information. I was just taken aback by it when I just saw it on the sign. I was like, "What? What? Why would there be a sign of automails?" Because it's a whole thing. Like I guess not really an industry, but it's, you know, it's something that can be made and whatnot. So I don't know how rare it is. Then that's the thing. But I mean, Winry's good with it, and she's a kid. So I guess on both sides of the coin, you've got, like, you know, Winry, who isn't an alchemist, I suppose. I don't know if she can even do, you know, alchemy at all or anything like that, but she is a gearhead and able to put this stuff together. So that is something. I'm guessing she was obviously told by a grandmother, seeing as that's who she lived with. Her parents went in the military and died as well. So again, more dead parents. But yeah, she had this little sort of talk with Riza Hawkeye. So yeah, she was in the first episode, but we didn't get her name. So yeah, that's her name. She said specifically that she was protecting somebody by being in the military. So there's that. So we'll see where that goes in the future. What else? Yeah, right. So who knows about Alphonse then? Like, who knows about the human transmutation thing that Edward and Al decided to do? Because it seemed as though they were purposefully, like, lying when they were in that room. Oh, well, Edward was, sorry. He said that, like, the arm thing and whatnot happened in the Eastern conflict, or whatever the hell they called it. Which obviously isn't true. You know what I mean? So Mustang knows about it. Riza knows about it, right? I'm guessing. Although she wasn't in the room with them. So maybe she doesn't know. But we know for a fact that Mustang does. And he's obviously took them under his wing. The teacher, like, must come back, right? Because Alphonse was talking about how the teacher was able to do it without transmutation circles as well. Now, whether or not he had automail or not, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, it's I just find it interesting that the teacher never had a line, like a word to say. It was just like, in like a montage sequence of learning. It's like, oh yeah, we had a teacher that we learned under, and then that was it. You know what I mean? Like, it's very vague with him, so I feel like he must have to come back at some point. And the same with the father as well. There are two story elements there that can be fitted into the story for, a dramatic effect and whatnot. And they can bring that into the story. So, at least one or the other surely has to turn up again, if not both. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know. I think that's it. I think I've gone through everything. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting sort of dynamic. Everything that comes from, like, shows that involve magic and everything, I always have that sort of idea about, well, where does it come from? You know what I mean? Because there has to be something that allows that to be the case. The interesting, obviously, thing about this is that it is going down the alchemist route, which is about equivalent exchange. Generally, like in Magic and other shows, it's like something that comes out of nothing. You know what I mean? But if you're talking about, like, Attack on Titan, about where, like, how the Titans are there, you know what I mean, and how they come out, it's like the same kind of question. You know what I mean? It's like, well, how does that come to be? How does that being exist? How does this magic form? Fate is another one. It's like, you have this Holy Grail and everything like that, but then what is the point of everything like that? Like, who made the Holy Grail for this to be a thing? You know what I mean? Like, and it's something that they never truly go into. Like, they never truly sort of, the stories specifically stay away from it, and they just give, like, enough to sort of give the reasons, like, oh well, it's like, kind of like, you've gotten a little bit of a taste of what it could be, now go along with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's interesting in this one, like, the whole idea of this being of everything. It'll be interesting to see if Edward brings it up again. I feel like he will do, because I think at some point he has to go back through those memories of where he learned everything for a split second, surely. So that's got to have to come back up. But whether or not we actually see the everything being again, I don't know. But it feels like Edward's, by being involved in that, has somehow met the everything being, which is something special to him that I don't think anyone else has. There may be some other people that have, but like, it's something that only he knows, so therefore he has access to information that other people don't have, which is obviously a specialty about him. You know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I've got. So yeah, very, very interesting. I can't wait to next week, or I guess Monday it would be. So it's not even next week. I mean, technically it is next week, but it's not 7 days away. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I can't wait to get into more episodes and learn more about this world and everything like that. Really, really cool. But that is all I got. So thank you for watching. If you do want to get access to episode 3 and 4 right now, by the way, you can do by becoming an early access tier patron over on my Patreon. And I'll give you 2 episodes a week. Everything early access a week early. There's also the full length tier over on there if you want to watch any of my reactions in full, and there is the exclusive tier which gives you access to movie reactions and everything like that if you want to watch my reactions to movies. There's also the link to the Discord in the description. If you want to get over there, you can do. It's not very active, but it's just there for anyone that wants to ask questions, anything like that. It's a bit easier than, you know, doing it through comments or anything like that. And if anything is a big announcement, I'll put it up on there anyway. But yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.